Welcome to 305 Vox Populi podcast with Mayor Manny Cid. I'm Councilman Ray Garcia taking over for him. We got a wonderful special guest today, Papa Keith in the house.
Yes.
How you doing, sir?
Pleasure.
Thank you for coming.
Sugar Ray
What's
Garcia.
up? That's right. Man, I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
First of all, listen, radio personality for 20 years.
Yeah.
Activist.
Yes.
Just hip-hop historian.
Yes.
And father of 6.
Yes.
Which is the most important.
Hence the name Papa.
We're going to get into that, man. Absolutely. But listen, one of the questions that we love to ask our guests really is, what inspired you? Like, what got you into, what is your why? Why do you do what you do at this point in your life?
Well, at this point, I'm happy you preferenced it that way because, earlier we were always after the dollar, right? We're trying to figure out a way how to feed our family and make things happen and do the things we love. But now that has shifted for me actually in the last 8 years, you know what I mean? And it's become legacy, I want to leave this place a better place than I met it, one. And then I want to leave something behind that'll be remembered for many years after my passing. You know what I mean? So I really want to make some strong social impacts, you know what I mean? That'll be able to present that.
That's great, man. Yeah. You got me beat by one. I have 5. I have 5 kids.
Oh, that's
4 boys and a girl.
That's what's up.
There's no TV in our house.
I'm the opposite, right?
No cable in our house, man.
I have all girls, one boy. Except for one boy. I'm the opposite.
It's a blessing, man. It's a blessing.
Yes, it is.
Let's talk about how it all got started, man. Talk about your family, your parents, your background. Trinidad.
So the diaspora for me is Trinidad. Mm-hmm. Both of my parents are from Trinidad and Tobago. We used to think that back then when you're from the islands or, your parents come to the States to have you so you could be an American citizen. Yeah. You know what I mean? So they did that. It worked. So I was born in Brooklyn, New York and raised there. My parents split up when I was in junior high school. And I decided to go with my mom, and that's how I discovered South Florida. I first settled actually in Miami Gardens. Mm-hmm. We had a studio apartment that my mom and I shared that time. So talking about humbling beginnings. Then we moved.
Shout out to Mary Harris and
shout out to Rodney Harris. And then we went over to North Miami Beach, where I really settled there. I went to NMB. Well, I went to JFK. Middle school, and then I went to NMB, and then I went back to New York and did some school out there, went to college out there, and then I came back to Miami to finish stuff out. I ended up getting involved with the music very heavily, and dropped out of college to pursue, my musical career, being a DJ and a host.
That's nice, man.
Yeah.
Now that must have been. How's your mom's handle that dropping out of college thing, man?
They knew I was I was always a very hyperactive kid, and I couldn't keep still. But I was oozing with talent and thoughts and stuff like that. So I think they kind of understood it. The classroom wasn't really my thing. I was always a class clown and getting in trouble, but never bad things. Always running my mouth and making jokes and being disruptive. So I think they understood that entertainment was definitely, the way to go for me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Now, how did that getting involved in that scene in New York? Well, hip-hop New York,
Well, it was a good education. I think it built me for being able to come to South Florida and use the knowledge and background and education and experience that I had in the entertainment field and bring that sort of energy here in South Florida, because the time I got here was really heavy with bass music and Luke and stuff like that. But we were getting a surge of New Yorkers that could not adapt to that, and was more into the East Coast New York hip hop and stuff like that. So we formulated our own community based on that, and ended up growing, and then so many New Yorkers moving down here to South Florida. It ended up kind of we were the beginning of that wave of hip hoppers here in South Florida.
Here. Absolutely,
yeah.
Now, how did all that translate? I know you had the connections, man. You knew the industry. How did that translate into working for Clear Channel, getting involved in 103, the beats and?
Well, at the time there was a boom. We didn't have an outlet for hip hop, even for them to listen to bass music or for us to listen to New York hip hop. We didn't have an outlet. The radio stations here at the time were really restricted. They played more R&B. They were super commercial. So some of the guys who were into the bass music, like DJ Uncle Al, they had underground stations, which became a pirate stations.
Absolutely.
You may know it as, became a boom down here. So we jumped onto that. Really. I was kind of like equally into the Caribbean music and the hip hop, because most of us came from, like I said, the Caribbean diaspora, but we grew up in hip hop. So it was 50-50 for me with Caribbean music and hip hop music. So we formulated our own underground radio stations. I started with the radio station 89.1, which was across the street from the Krispy Kreme on 6th Avenue and 167th.
Okay.
And then after that, it was a Caribbean station called Mix 96.
Mix 96, okay.
Right, but the Caribbean station will still play hip hop as well because we all grew up that way. So it was making our mark there that the stations knew they need to make a change, and they heard what we were doing, and they kind of recruited us. So at the time, before we were recruited, it was myself, DJ Khaled, that were really on top of the underground game, DJ Uncle Al. So they literally recruited us. The person who recruited us in 1998 was Uncle Luke. They gave him a show called The Luke Show.
The Luke Show,
in 98.
Oh, my
and we
Lord.
were his DJs. So it was Khaled, myself, I was a part of a group called Soul Syndicate, but I was the mouthpiece, and it was DJ Uncle Al. The show didn't last long because it was crazy. But after that, I completely fell in love with radio.
Yeah.
And I have to shout her out. I do every time. A young lady by the name of Darnella was the one who said, hey, you should do this for a living. And then I went to Miami Lakes Tech.
Miami Lakes Tech. Shout out to Miami Lakes Tech. Absolutely.
Yes, at the time they had a radio broadcasting program there.
That's right.
And I did that program. I think his name was John.
Okay.
I think he passed away. But John was doing the program there. I took it for a year and went over to 99 Jams, sat in the lobby for a couple months,
of course,
and begged them to let me in. And finally, in 1999, just in December, just before the new year, they let me in to help them. At that time, we were using CDs.
Yeah.
The technology was there, and they invited me in to pull the CDs to do the top 99 songs of the year.
Okay.
And never left radio since then.
Man.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah,
that is crazy. I mean, I can just imagine on the Luke Show how many times you hit that delay.
The dump button.
The dump. I don't know if you guys know radio. There's a dump button. It gives you like what, 6-7 seconds?
Yeah. At the time it was 7 seconds.
Man.
And so you have history.
Yeah, a little bit
with radio too.
Yeah, but nowhere near what you got going on.
I know, but touch on it, man. You got a little history there,
we'll
man.
get into that. You get to ask some questions.
Okay. Got you.
All right, so
I didn't want to leave you out.
No. It's all about you. It's all about you. Now, 20 years of that involved in the community. Right? You're seeing what's going on.
Yes.
You're dealing with not only community successes, but its tragedies.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
How did you start getting involved with the People's Fest and the Get Out the Vote campaign?
Okay, so that's a great question. I think if I had to think of my earliest point of, just getting a little bug bite, I would have to say the Trayvon Martin situation.
Yeah.
Really kind of was an eye opener for me at that time. I didn't know what direction to go in. I didn't know how to feel and stuff like that. But I think that triggered a lot of us. To want to understand how we can create change.
Yeah.
And from that point, I just became a little bit more aware and was a little bit more eager to do more things in the community. So I would lend my talents to different events that were happening just as a part of my job as a radio personality,
Sure.
Nothing more. And actually, the thing that really changed, there was two friends of mine, and they were two completely different personality types. One day from the next said to me almost the same thing, like, hey, you're doing great, you're making money, doing, your radio and, all that kind of stuff. And this was 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
what's your legacy going to be when it's said and done? And when they said that to me, one day after the next, it was just like it hit me.
Yeah.
And then it made me really think like, yeah, I mean, it's cool that I'm on the radio and I get to talk to 300,000 people daily and all that stuff. But what is my legacy? What are they going to know me for? What are they going to know about me? Ironically, a year prior to that, in gaining success on the radio, I bought a house, I bought the car I want. I was one of the first I got the jump on the Tesla before anybody had it. I bought one in 2013 when it just came
Model
out.
S, you got the Model S.
The Model S,
Yeah.
and so I was like feeling so good, but I was feeling empty inside. And I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out at all, Ray. I was just like, what is wrong with me? I got everything. My wife's happy, everything at the time. And so I just kept going on and just like, I don't know, maybe it'll come to me, maybe I'll figure it out in therapy. And no, seriously,
Yeah, man,
I just
you're right.
couldn't figure it out at all.
You're right.
And then 8 years ago, I got invited by a group called New Florida Majority at the time. And they invited me to come out to a rally, to host this rally, to have young folks come out and vote, at the election. At that time, it was Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, sure, if you're paying me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they paid me and I went out there. And it was when I went out there to an event that happened in Liberty City, and I really realized, like some disparage, some things that just weren't that left me uneasy. I discovered something called a digital desert. I discovered something called a food desert. I never knew about that. Because I live in a nice area. Oh, Publix, 5 minutes away.
People get
What do you mean you don't have internet?
No, people don't realize that a lot of people get their groceries from dollar stores and from places that have all processed foods.
I had no clue, brother.
It's hard to get these big companies to invest in these neighborhoods. So there are miles and miles of food deserts. Absolutely.
Right.
I get you.
So I discovered that 8 years ago. I guess I was living in my own bubble, in Miramar at the time. So I was, that's where I was living. So I just thought, hey, of course, it's right there. What do you mean you can't get, this and that and the other? So going into those neighborhoods, I quickly realized, and I was like, wow, this is crazy to me. And I started doing more and more events with the New Florida Majority. And at that time, they were, of course, had me involved to kind of get the youths involved in voting. Prior to that, I never was interested in voting, never cared about voting, voted for Barack Obama twice because he was black, just being honest and transparent. Other than that, I wasn't active, in local politics, anything. And as I started doing more and more events with them, I started realizing more and more why I need to be involved and why I need to understand. I started understanding the why.
Yeah, that's deep.
And then I got really involved, like extremely involved. I was doing 3 a days and, because now that hole I felt in my heart, that emptiness that I was feeling, it was being filled. And from that point on, I never looked back. So
and you couldn't think of a time that like this felt so good to you to do. He's like, man, I couldn't ever imagine not being involved anymore.
Yeah, could not, because it did it for me. And ultimately, I had to just broad stroke it, I would say, just kind of helping others who can't really help themselves or who don't have the opportunity, the means, the resources. So I've become like this resource master, so to speak, where I want to offer all these resources or educate people on these resources that are available to
Ironically, Papa, that's what we do. My main objective is to become a resource for residents, to get them if they need help in certain things. We try to steer them to the right places.
Which is exactly, as a councilman.
Absolutely. Now, you just didn't only get involved in just the Just Vote process. You broke records in getting people registered. Talk about that.
All right. So what was crazy is that, so it did start off with voting, right?
Yeah.
That's how I first got involved. But the real hot button issue at the time was gun violence. So although I started off with the voting, I built everything else on the and gun violence suppression, anti-gun violence, right? So I came up with the People Matter Festival, right?
Yeah.
So what the People Matter Festival was about, it was an opportunity for me to take the county resources. So I got together with the mayor. At that time, it was Mayor Carlos Jimenez, awesome guy, right?
Congressman now.
Congressman now, exactly. Awesome guy. He technically, along with, because I don't want to leave people out, there were really a lot of cool people that helped me as well. Commissioner Monestein from District 2, Miami-Dade County, when he was commissioner at the time, helped me out. And then also, he's now a commissioner as well, Miami-Dade County. But Keon Hardeman also helped me out with my first People Matter Festival when I kept it in the city of Miami.
Okay.
Because he was a commissioner of the city of Miami at that time. So that first one that I did, it was meant to bring resources together for the community, bring the community out in the name of hip hop. If I had gone to any mayor, any commissioner, any councilman here in the state of Florida and said, hey, 10 years ago, I want to keep a free hip hop event in your most violent neighborhood.
They would have been like, what?
Right, exactly. Yeah. But I built the trust, with the politicians and with the community that we can actually do this. So the first one we did, they didn't quite trust me enough in the city of Miami, so I couldn't do any artists. So I did it with just Kids Zone, music, and stuff like that. They wouldn't let me do any artists.
Yeah, prove the concept. Yeah, right. You got a good turnout.
After I did it, they were like, wow, we get it now.
Yeah.
They were really cool about it. But I decided to move on with the county. And that's when I got the opportunity to work with Commissioner Monestein and then with Mayor Carlos Jimenez, who is now, senator, right? And that's when we did the big one with the artists and stuff like that. So what it was meant to be a free hip hop festival. Now we're the biggest free hip hop festival, right?
Yeah.
So where nobody pays to enter, you come in and you see some of your favorite hip hop artists. Food trucks are there. That's the only thing you pay for is food trucks. We have sports elements to it where we do a basketball tournament. We do a flag football tournament. Again, like I said, we have the concert, and then we bring all of the county resources there. So whether it's childcare, whether it's pet adoption, whether, criminal justice, they all come, set up their tents, and connect with the community at this free event. And then we ask for a 24-hour ceasefire to be the call to action. So we've done that for 5 years and have been successful with a 24-hour ceasefire, no gun violence, countywide for 5 years.
How about you save lives, man?
Yeah.
You save lives.
So, but even more so than saving lives, just showing people like, yo, we can do this, stop, making things more than what they need to be. Yeah. Give people a chance and let them, like I like to say, let them govern themselves accordingly. You know what I mean?
Do you feel that, talk about apathy. I know you're trying to combat apathy, get the vote out and get people involved. How hard has it been to show people that, your voice does matter, your vote does matter?
It's difficult, but I think I'm onto something with Just Vote Period. So Just Vote Period is a campaign I came up with actually the beginning of this year. And I realized, although I'm talking to people about suppressing gun violence for the last 7 years, I realized before I could talk to you about gun violence, before I could talk to you about any of these digital deserts, any of these things that we could tackle that are also important, if you don't understand your right to vote, let me get back to the basics, is what I realized. So I said, let me dial it back. Let me focus on getting the youth involved and understanding that their vote is their voice and let them get involved with the voting process. Let me educate them, because my experience with learning about voting was horrible. And, I don't want to, I moved nonpartisan. I moved very nonpartisan because it's for everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I may like Trump, or I may like this one, or I may like that one. Doesn't matter. This is meant to be nonpartisan. This is welcoming for everyone.
Yep.
My thing is that your first engagement as a young person to vote should be like your experience going to a party or an event or something that's pleasurable.
Yep.
No disrespect to the amazing women, aunties, grandmothers, mothers who donate and volunteer their time to help the process. I love what you're doing, but I'm just taking a different approach in the sense that I don't think a young person's first experience in registering to vote or having to learn anything about voting should be some lady with a clipboard in her hand. Hey, did you change your address? Not sexy.
Yeah.
I use the word sexy for a reason. I want to make it sexy for the younger audience.
Yeah, hence the artists that come out.
So what I do is I go to their level.
Yep.
I have their artists that they like talk about voting. I have them doing drops talking about voting.
Nice.
I go where they're at. I go to events like whether it's Rolling Loud or different type festivals where the youth are going to be at, where they're in a safe space and an enjoying space. And then I don't even register people to vote. I don't do any of that. All I do is say, hey, here's the information if you need it. If you go to the website right now at justvoteperiod.com, all it is just information letting you know you can vote by mail, you can register to vote here and stuff like that. And it gives you a few points of why it's important to let your voice be your vote and let your vote be your voice.
You're educating them. You're getting in an environment they feel comfortable.
Exactly. That's all.
And you're not pushing it.
And I'm not pushing it.
So with kids, you have 6, I have 5. You push something. That's the best way of telling them not to do it. They're not going to do it.
Exactly.
But if you just leave it right there and say whenever you want.
Because if you think about it, Councilman, like, they don't know.
Yeah, they don't know.
We're in it, and then we don't know everything about every candidate.
Absolutely.
Or every amendment. Yeah. You know what I mean? We figure it out. We try to. So just imagine them, in that period of their life, trying to figure their life out. Let's try to find a way to make it cool for them.
Yeah.
So that's what Just Vote Period is about. You know what I mean?
No,
it's a statement telling you, like, I don't care who you vote for, just vote, period.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to give you reasons, and I'm going to make it cool of why it's important for you to get involved with the process. We have a big election coming up here.
Yep.
A couple of big elections, some in August.
Yeah, primary in August.
Right,
yeah.
and then in the big one in November.
Absolutely.
So my hope is that I and the team of people that I have can be a beacon for them to say, yeah, let me look into this, and let me register to vote, or so we did a People Manifest, to just fully answer your question.
And when is that? Every year? When?
It was in March.
In March. Okay.
So I kind of I do it the same weekend as Ultra.
Oh man.
Because
that's
Ultra,
an alternative,
Ultra,
man.
Exactly. Ultra has a niche crowd, and it's during spring break.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a hip hop festival.
Yeah,
so you're not going to find much hip hoppers at Ultra, so it gives them an alternative.
There you go.
And all the complaints that everybody had about kicking the kids off of the beach, I get it, no problem. Here's a place for them to come to.
We'll take them. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
What were some of the artists that were there this year?
I'll start from the top to the bottom. We had one of the members of the Migos, Offset. He was our headliner.
Nice.
A guy who's really hot right now in the hip hop community, Boss Man D-Lo. And then we had a lot of other local artists and some artists from New York and different areas that came out there and performed.
There's a misconception that artists, it's all about them and women and money, but this latest generation is about community. Like they're stepping up.
They're into community, but what I try to remind people, because listen, I deal with hip hop every day on the radio station on 103.5 The Beat, and I look at it no different than I would go to a movie. You go to a movie and somebody's telling you a story.
Yeah.
They may have gun violence in that story. They may have, it's entertainment. They may have misogyny in that story. It's different elements to it. You know what I mean? What I don't like is excessiveness.
Yeah, of course.
In any one area. So if there's an opportunity for me to keep a balance, I will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
you set an example for your kids.
Right, and then you don't want to overemphasize the violence part of hip hop for the kids. So I like the balance. You know what I mean?
I got a lot of respect for that. Let's talk about your name, Papa. Papa means respect. It's a term of endearment, of respect, right?
Yes.
And you're one of your favorite artists, right? Was it reggae artist that one of your favorite? Or?
Papa San.
Yeah.
So it's also derived from, I was into Kung Fu movies.
Okay.
As a kid. And back in the days, the Kung Fu movies, like when you were a master of your style, you were Papa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they would add Papa to your name. And then one of my favorite reggae artists from back in the days was Papa San. So I just added the Papa onto my name.
Nice.
Not knowing that I was going to end up with that many kids years later.
Well, man, you've earned that title. I have.
In many ways, right?
No, you've earned that title in many ways. You have the respect of the community. I'm sure your children, man, they have what a role model you are for them. You want to talk a little bit about your kids? How old are they? Say shout out to them.
I'm very proud of them. None of them have followed in my footsteps, so that's fine.
Okay.
You kind of want that as a dad,
of course.
But then it's like, my life is kind of crazy too.
Yeah, my kids are shy.
Right. Same thing.
Kids are shy.
Even my boy, like they're just onto different things. So my eldest, she graduated recently with her doctorate in pharmacy. She did a double major, so I'm super proud of her. My son just got his license to sell insurance 2 days ago, so I'm very proud of him. Prior to that, he was in the hotel business.
Nice.
But he made a shift. I have another daughter that just graduated with her master's from FIU. Half of my kids went to FIU.
Nice.
So shout out to FIU Golden Panthers.
Yeah.
She just graduated with her master's, and then I have another one that has her master's as well. She's in Houston. I have another one that just came back from doing studies in Singapore. And she's back home, and she's graduating from school in San Diego at the end of this month. And then I have my little one who's going to high school right now. But she's probably the closest to me. She's our drama queen in the family.
Congratulations, man. It is not easy just making sure one of your children are on the right path.
Right.
But all of your kids seem to be on the right path.
I give the credit to all of their mothers, though.
Their mothers, yeah. Mm-hmm. Their mothers doing
and
the
I
same.
said all of them. I don't want to make it sound super excessive, but yes, I do have more than one.
Hey.
Not all from the same.
I feel you.
I am in the entertainment business, guys.
Oh, man. Well, listen, I get it. Listen, I appreciate that.
But their mothers are absolutely amazing. I give them all the credit.
Yeah. We'll take a little break to speak about our sponsors. I want to thank BB's Bakehouse for all the wonderful food and drinks, sponsoring the podcast. Also, the Miami Lakes Automall. Thank you, Fred Senra. Location is 16600 Northwest 57th Avenue, Miami Lakes. Phone number is 305-455-3510. Amazing. If you want to buy a brand new automobile, go to the Automall. Also, the mural here, I want to thank artist Grisel Gajano. An amazing job doing this mural for the podcast. If you need any type of work like this at your house, please contact her, 786-353-8608. And of course, we wouldn't be able to do this podcast without Enrique Santos, who donated the Roadcaster, which is an amazing piece of technology, allows us to do this for you. And of course, Matter Lakes Broadcasting, who put this all together. Incredible. The staff, the kids, amazing job that they do. Honestly, I tell them, when I see it and I compare them to other podcasts on YouTube, the production value is perfect, like a professional podcast. So I want to thank all our sponsors. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. We have some questions from some of the students here at Matter Lakes Broadcasting that put the show together. You have any questions for Papa Keith?
When it comes to your family and your work, do you ever find a good balance between them?
All right, so he said balance between my family and work because he's not mic'd up. So balance between there is none, really. So what I've found to bring me joy and to connect it is that at one point I literally had to involve my family with what I do. Not so much the on-air radio stuff, which I do. My daughter sometimes comes and sits in my show, but more so with the community stuff I do, because the community work I do take majority of my time. So they're involved. So you'll see all of my kids at the People Matter Festival. You'll see all my kids at some of the pop-up events and the different things that I do in the community. So they are involved with it. And it's also important for them to understand the values of what I do in the community as well, because it's going to help to shape them, you know, in whatever they're doing. So that's where I create the balance. And then outside of that, we jump on our boat, and I get to spend at least maybe one Sunday a month, and, you know, we hit the sandbar and have a good time collectively, you know?
You can go back to high school. Like if you can go back, right? Remember when you were 17, 16, 17, 18. What advice would you give to high schoolers right now to save them time and grief in growing up? What's a couple tidbits of advice you would give?
Buy Apple stock, Facebook stock,
Yeah.
Microsoft stock. No.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I could have went back and told myself that.
Bitcoin, man.
No, right? And then get out of it on this date.
Yeah.
What I would honestly say is that, I've found that when, people tell me that I can't do something, and I set myself focused to make sure I could do what they told me I couldn't do. I mean, so, there's always going to be people, and they don't mean bad. Some because they can't do it, they'll tell you that. Some because they may feel they know you well enough, and this may not fall into how they view you. For whatever reason they may tell you can't do something. Sometimes it's better you search into your soul and you do what feels right and you push through it, and you don't do it to prove anything to anybody but yourself. Because once you get to that point where you can actually do something that you and others thought you couldn't do, then you get this kind of like Superman kind of energy, and as long as you remain humble with it and you use it for good, you're going to be amazing.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I try to instill it in my kids.
Did you ever think that you would be a politician?
No.
You see what I'm saying?
No, not at all.
You see what I'm saying?
Not at all. I limited myself. I never let that in as a possibility. And possibilities, opening yourself to whatever, and you can do whatever that comes up, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yes. And even because you just finished talking about my kids, sometimes I want to like seep into them and be like, you can do this, but they, I can't force them. They have to figure it out and they have to learn on their own. But like, it's just having that relentlessness and that fearlessness. I think that's the two words that I would like to use: relentless and fearless, but for good.
Yeah, that makes sense. Perfect sense. We flip the script a little bit on this podcast, and we allow all the time our guests to ask the host some questions. You got a couple questions for me, a couple questions for the crew.
Absolutely. I'll start with you. You've been so graceful, and and thank you to the mayor. I know he couldn't be here, but although he couldn't be, I'm very happy to have this opportunity with you. Is this your first time filling in?
First time doing the podcast, man.
All right, so let's everybody give him a round of applause. He's doing an
amazing
job.
Thank you.
Amazing job. So you have some history with the radio. I just want you to talk about that.
Little bit. Yeah, back in the late '90s. I had an opportunity to do advertising sales, radio spots for the same station, but different format, 103.5 back in the day.
See the irony in this,
Yeah,
guys?
the irony, man. So this was before the studios were in Miramar. It was in Sunrise in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, man. Sold radio. Cold calling, knocking on doors. Doing some spots myself, doing some voices sometimes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's what's up.
But radio is difficult, guys. I don't know if you know this, but if you're not hitting the numbers, if those ratings aren't in there, man, they'll change your format like this, and they changed that format of that station quick.
Right.
They just got rid of everybody.
Let me tell you the most difficult thing about radio, at least because you've done commercials, so you can probably understand this too. The world deals with hours and minutes. So, hey, give me 15 minutes, or I'll be there in an hour. In radio, you deal with seconds.
Yes, absolutely.
I have to have a complete thought and deliver this product and do all these different things within seconds. Yep. So with that comes a deal of pressure. I have one more question for you, and thank you for answering that. The other question is, being a councilman of this amazing city that I actually have history with in Miami Lakes. I used to live here for a stint as well, and I've always been fond of this city. being a councilman here, what was the deciding factor for you to get involved in your community on this level?
That's a great question. I'd say the pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah, the mayor and a lot of organizations here, like Giving Gators, which is an organization from Barbara Goldman.
Mm-hmm.
During the pandemic, there was a lot of elderly that couldn't leave the house and they couldn't get food.
Wow.
So those two, the mayor, the Golden Gators, a bunch of organizations, Miami Lakes, decided, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get donations. A school in Hialeah, one of the councilmen, one of the vice mayors, Carlos Alvarez, he said, yeah, you can use my kitchen, my refrigerators to stock up, and we will put together thousands of food bags. And every week we do that, and we take it out to the elderly. And I got a chance to deliver this food in the faces of people that were stuck in the house.
Yeah.
They had no family here, and we were the only sources of food for months. And man, I got the bug.
Changed your life.
And I said, this feeling,
Mm-hmm.
it's a drug. I mean, I got to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So that kept me going and getting involved more in different organizations here, different committees. And the opportunity came up, and I said, man, it's a natural extension. And just walking around and meeting people, knocking on doors when you're campaigning is my favorite thing to do, man. Just getting to talk to people. And during the pandemic, you have to wear the mask. I would knock on the door and run back to the sidewalk.
Right. So they could see your face.
No, so they wouldn't get scared because nobody's going to open the door.
Yeah. Especially the elderly.
I campaigned.
Yeah.
My first campaign was during the pandemic.
Wow.
So literally, it was a health risk if you got too close.
Yeah.
So I would, that mask is hard, So
Yeah.
I would try. Basically, I would ask them. It was all about them. Tell me about you. Tell me about your family. Why did you choose Miami Lakes? And what do you want to see different to make your quality of life better? And that's it. And that was my platform. Whatever they told me it was.
Wow.
And that's what I try to do. I think all the council people and the mayor, they base it on empathy. If you don't have empathy, don't get in your game.
Right.
And don't get into the political world. If you don't have empathy, you shouldn't be involved in politics. It's all about them. It's not about you.
That was amazing, bro.
So that's what it is, man.
Yeah.
So Papa Keith, man, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for showing up. I know you're a busy man.
It's all good. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I found the time. Shout out to Tree Hugger. And just want to remind people they can tap in with me several ways if you don't mind.
Do it.
I'm on 103.5 The Beat on your FM dial Monday through Saturday from 3 until 7 p.m. Please follow my Instagram at Papa_Keith. That's PAPA_KEITH. I don't know if you guys are going to have a lower third, but
Yeah.
also please follow my campaign. Meaning the campaign to get the youth out to vote. That's available for everyone. We're hyper focused on South Florida right now with Just Vote, period. Please check it out. My nonprofit is Papa Keith for People Matter. The events I do is the People Matter Fest. Follow up with all those things. You can find out, all that I've been doing for the last 8 years here in our communities.
Absolutely. Make sure you follow this, man. And make sure you follow the podcast too. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. 305 Vox Populi. We'll see you next time.